Hello everyone, and welcome to Retro Brick Reviews, where today I will be reviewing LEGO Harry Potter set number 71043, Hogwarts Castle. This set includes 6,020 pieces, 4 minifigures, 32 nano figures, and it retails for about $400. And while I don't usually talk about size in videos, this set is over 1 foot deep, nearly 30 inches wide, and at the peak of the tallest tower, over 2 feet tall. And due to the sheer mass of this set, I will be splitting this review up into 2 separate videos, both of which will probably be near an hour long. And in part 1, this video, I will be taking a look at the castle itself. The Great Hall, the Grand Staircase Tower, the Stone Bridge, the Viaduct, and the Library entrance. And in part 2, I'll be taking a look at everything else. So the minifigures, the nano figures, side builds, box, instruction manual, extra pieces. Yeah. But without any more further ado, let us begin. Now, this set features one very important, feature that is basically going to make this review possible and is very simple, but very important. So watch this. The set separates in 2. One side being the Great Hall and Grand Staircase Tower, and the other side featuring, everything else. So now we can get a much closer look at the castle, starting with the section with the Great Hall and Grand Staircase Tower. Our journey at Hogwarts begins at the humble boathouse, standing in the shadow of the Great Hall, which, for what it's worth, is a very cute little structure. You have a couple of lanterns out front, a single window on the tower, and it's topped off with a lightning rod. Inside the model, if we just lift the roof off, you can see stickers for the 4 Hogwarts house crests, as this is where the students see them for the first time after they get to the school by boat. Moving up, we have a winding staircase up to the Great Hall, and you can notice that although I did mention, and this is true, that I won't be showing the nano figures in detail in this part of the video, I will still be interspersing them throughout the castle, so you can sort of see how they scale with everything. And before we get to the castle, I just want to comment on how really just great this cliffside is. Like, just turning the model around, there's so much detailing all around here for the rocky details. That was a sentence. And a lot of it is made up using these very large, big ugly rock pieces, as they're called in dark tan, which are none too common in that color, so that's kind of cool. And you can sort of see, because they have the hollow studs, like, everything from here to here is just one big ugly rock piece with a bunch of pieces added on top. All the structure from here to here is just one. Everything from here to here is just one. And we also have some on the corners, like everything from right here to over here is one. And so you get a fair amount of them, but I don't really mind, since once you add on all of the different light gray and olive green pieces, it really does it looks very detailed, and unless you're looking closely, you can't even tell that it's made up out of those large prefab pieces. Plus, using them did keep the price down, which is always good. I mean, if they'd had to build these cliffs up using individual pieces, the set probably would have been at least 8,000 parts, which would have been a bit crazy. You can also see that interspersed throughout we have some very nice pine trees, each using a little 3 long lightsaber bar in brown, and then 3 of the more recent flower stock pieces stacked on top of each other. And around this side, you can see that we do have some Technic holes and this sort of flattened off surface on the end with those tiles, and this is the surface that connects onto the other half of the castle. And moving up to the Great Hall and Courtyard, there's a lot of awesome detail here. Starting in with the courtyard, you can see that here we have just a ton of this great printed window elements. You can sort of see them all here, but they're all around, which looks very nice, meant to sort of represent all the nice archways and all that goes around the courtyard. And they just look very nice, and they add a great amount of detail, and I am very glad that they are all printed, and they look very nice. Turning this to look straight at the front of the Great Hall, you can see in there a pair of double doors, as well as a golden nano figure, which is the statue of the architect of Hogwarts. And then going further up, we can see a sticker representing a portcullis that is up, as well as a clock face, which is very similar to one that comes in the minifigure scale Hogwarts Great Hall set from the 2018 assortment. And also we can see that sort of going between the Great Hall and Grand Staircase Tower, we just have this little sort of large wall piece, which I have more of an issue with than I do with the burps, because this wall piece isn't really covered up at all, and it's pretty obvious that it's just one big prefab piece. But I still don't mind it that much, and that piece is literally my biggest issue with the entire set, and I barely even care about it. Yeah, this set's awesome, if you haven't gotten it by this point. And then turning to look at the main Great Hall, you can see that we have some amazing stained glass features. Those are fantastic, just with all those different transparent colors. And when the light comes through, as it is here, it looks fantastically beautiful. And you can also see all sorts of lamp posts going all around the Great Hall. And up top, you have the roof with some very nice indications for some windows, and 5 Dementors flying around, which actually do not use the standard nanofigure piece, instead opting to use the existing Star Wars Emperor Palpatine hologram piece, but in black. So they do have the cloaks, and they are slightly larger than minifigures, both of which are very good for Dementors. And you can see the 3 main spires up top, with the center one using some very nice sort of octagonal building that looks very good, with lightning rods on top of all 3. You'll also notice that the tallest of the 3 towers actually does use a sand green cone instead of a standard dark gray one, which I think works really well to sort of accentuate the fact that they are still going with sand green for highlights in the new sets. They're not getting rid of the color. And I do like here that rather than seeing them just for the lightning rods like we do in the minifigure scale sets, all 7 of the tall towers in the set do have the sand green cones topping them as well, which just looks very nice in my opinion and is a great tribute to those original sets. Going back down and taking a look at more towards the back side of the Great Hall, you can see the bay window, which is not 100% accurate, surprisingly. Basically, these columns that you see here should be there, but they should be way less prominent. Like, to the point where it probably would have been more accurate had they just straight up omitted this one in the middle and just had 3 columns of windows. And also, unfortunately, unlike all the windows on the front of the model, this bay window at the back doesn't have any way to have light go through it, because this is a solid wall, so there's no light shining through, which is a bit unfortunate, but you can still sort of see the transparent colors coming through there. And that is really all we have for the Great Hall, but there is still the tower, so let's go up and look at that in all of its majesty. This is a massive build. Like here you can sort of see the majority of it, which is 3 floors. You can see that you have some relatively subtle stickers for some windows, which I don't mind at all. In fact, they look good because, again, they're very subtle. Like, if I hadn't built the set, I probably wouldn't even notice they were there, but they are there and they add good detail. You can also see how, representing some larger windows, we actually have a ton of trans smoke black 1x1 plates sort of built into the model and then sort of covered up on all sides. So they're just sort of sandwiched in there and they're inset. It looks very nice for a ton of windows. And then it sort of slopes up to this top section, which is absolutely enormous. And there we have the huge cone, which is built up using a lot of plate building, and then up top we just have the standard spire pieces that are also used elsewhere in the set and in the minifig scale Harry Potter sets for this new line. That's also topped by a green cone and lightning rod. You have the 3 spires for the headmaster's office. Off to the side we have a mini Hungarian horntail dragon, and I will actually remove that top section of the tower to show you in closer detail later in the review. But for now, let's take a look at another really awesome aspect of this set, because while obviously having a great interior is fantastic, great exterior is fantastic, sorry, the interior is something that surprised a lot of people when we saw that it, well, existed. And it surprised me with how good it was. So let's just spin this baby all the way around so we can see what we've got on the inside, where we have a total of 7 rooms in this part of the model. And starting down at the bottom, we have the Chamber of Secrets, with 2 sort of smaller rooms on the left at the bottom of the tower. And these are, again, buried in the cliff sides. They are underground, as is accurate. You can see Ginny standing by the entrance to the Chamber of Secrets, which is a very nice sticker on this little dish piece. Unfortunately, that doesn't open at all, but it still looks good. And on the other side, under the Great Hall, we have the chamber itself, with the basilisk, which is actually using a sand green recolor of Nagini from the Harry Potter CMF line. And that's really cool because not only is it an exclusive color and it looks really good, but the sand green is a really nice callback to the original Chamber of Secrets from 2002, when Nagini was sand green as opposed to being a probably more accurate dark green. Either way, it looks a lot better than the black basilisk we got in 2018. You can also see an odd bit of scaling that appears a couple times in the set, that being that at the bottom we have a 1x1 tile representing Tom Riddle's diary. That's what they do for all books in the set, and they are enormous compared to a figure. Like, you can sort of compare the size of the nano figure I have in there for Tom Riddle. Just compare the size of his head to that book. That is enormous. Down in there we also have some sort of water channels on the sides, which is nice. The 4 snake statues actually use the Ninjago Vermilion serpent headpieces in dark gray, which is exclusive to the set. And while it's not accurate fully to the movies, because in the movies the statues were just of the snake heads, this looks so much cooler in my opinion. One final detail in here is the brick-built face of Salazar Slytherin, where he has an absolutely ginormous nose on this fella, as well as a couple of sunken-in eyes with the headlight bricks, which look fantastic. And then you can see 6 stickers making up detailing for his hair, which I think is not fully necessary, in all honesty, but it still looks good enough. And, I mean, it looks better with the stickers. I just don't know if it was entirely necessary to have that extra detail. But it's still fantastic, and seeing as how this is going to be the only Chamber of Secrets we get for at least the next couple years, it's a good thing that it's done so well. Moving up, we have the main interior for the Great Hall. Starting up here, we have the sort of teacher's table, and aside from that window wall piece up at the front of the Great Hall and the exterior, my main issue with the set is how they handled chairs, because you can see that for the seats we have 5 upside-down neck bracket pieces just attached onto studs. And while they look really good, the issue is that it is basically impossible to seat a figure down on one of them. I actually just did it right there, funny enough, but that's the first time I've been able to manage it in my months of having the set. Because if you try to put them all the way down, they'll either just stick to your finger, or they'll pop off a bit after. So you do have to be very careful and put them on just right. You can also see that Dumbledore's chair there in the back has a little extra silver toothpiece to give it a bit more detail, which is nice. And turning around to the back, you can see that since the bay window, again, does not really... There's no see-through there, we just have it stickered on really tiny, which I think is fine. Like, if you're going to do it as a solid wall, I think that's perfectly fine to do, but I think it would have been better if they could have just found a way to just have the wall be not solid and just have the bay window be an actual window that light can go through. You can also see another smaller sticker up here, which is the 4 vials full of the colored stones that represent the house points, and that's just a really cute little detail. You can also see that we have sort of a couple of these little pieces jutting out, and those actually come from a pair of new archway pieces that premiered in the set. I'll just turn back around to the bay window so you can see the two. We have one that's a corner arch, and they're each 1x1 pieces with each just half a stud sticking off each side. So you have this corner arch, as well as just a fully, in all actuality, a 2-wide piece with a stud in the center. So it's kind of like an arch jumper. And you can sort of see how 2 of those meet together to create a single arch, which looks really good. And it's just fantastic for creating the thin columns and was an imperative piece they needed to make the set. And I'm so glad that they jumped forward with it. Fun fact, that piece was actually supposed to premiere in the Hogwarts Great Hall set back in July of 2018, but due to the fact that that set already had like 6 new pieces in it, and the set already had a very high price to part ratio, they decided to just omit those pieces from the set. But in the original prototypes from Toy Fair, you can still see them. Anyway, back to the Great Hall, you can see that you have stickers for the 4 house banners, which look really good. And those are just floating by way of some clear bar pieces, which work well. You have some floating torches, which are good. And you have the 4 long house tables. There's no studs connecting those students. So this is another thing where you just sort of have to line them up easily, but because their bases fit pretty cleanly between the tables, there's no real issue there. So it's perfectly good. At the back here, we have a very fun reference to Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, where we just have all of Umbridge's educational decrees hung up there. In total, we have a round dozen, which definitely is not all of them. In fact, I'm pretty sure that in the movie we went up well into the hundreds. But it's great to just get some of them, and in general, it's such a fun little detail. I adore that. Speaking of adore, there are doors, and while I didn't show it earlier, they can open inward. If I just give them a little poke. There we go. So yeah, they just open in, and you can sort of see the nice detailing that's on those with the golden ring stickered on for the door handle. Moving on over to the Grand Staircase Tower, our first floor above the chamber entrance is this one that just has a staircase, and that can rotate around so you can have it move, which is a really cool feature and one that in this fashion we haven't seen in a Harry Potter set before this. And you can also see that there are stickers inside of these large curved tower wall pieces. And those stickers are of just a ton of different portraits. Those are just really nice. I don't think I can point out any characters in particular for being characters that have relevance. Although perhaps this guy over here with the locket is meant to be Salazar Slytherin, and this one with the sort of diadem could be Rowena Ravenclaw, but that's a bit of a stretch. Moving up, we actually get a second room that has a bunch of portraits, and same thing, just a staircase. Same build for these two rooms, but they both look nice. Also, I find it surprising how the anti-studs here don't look bad at all. I think it's how we have the reddish-brown trim, creating a nice sort of homey, rustic, wooden feeling. It's really good. But yeah, and here we just have more portraits. Again, can't really name any of these characters specifically. Yeah. And then moving up, we have the girls' bathroom, which is Moaning Myrtle's bathroom, combined with the prefect's bathroom from Goblet of Fire. And you can see that our build in there is just the sink that was the entrance to Chamber of Secrets. So, you have the chamber entrance and the tower in the same section, which is good. But, there are 2 flights of stairs in between, so not a fully perfect placement for this room. Probably would have made more sense if they put this just directly above the chamber. But that's something that doesn't bother me that much, just a little observation, and if it bothers you a ton, well, I mean, it would be pretty easy to just switch the rooms. And then the back for the stickers, on one you have the stalls of Moaning Myrtle's bathroom with a very cute sticker of Myrtle herself as a little nano figure, which is really cute, and our first physical version of Moaning Myrtle in a set. And then on the other side, we have the mermaid stained glass window from the prefect's bathroom, which looks really good, definitely using the Pirates of the Caribbean mermaids as the base, though. And there is one more, actually technically 2 more floors of the tower to look at if we want to get technical, but since I don't feel like bending my camera up anymore, it'll be easier if I just remove the top of the tower, so let's do that now. So here we can get a closer look at the top spire of the tower. You can see that we actually have Technic holes used for some little windows just at the very tippy top of the tan stone part. And I like how they used all of these different pearl silver 1x1 half round tiles for some shingles. That's some really good detailing. At the side we again have our triple spire of towers. That is where Dumbledore's office would be canonically. However, in the actual model for where locations are located, Dumbledore's office is just inside of this main section because, well, it's a bit physically impossible to fit like a whole room into just this bit here. That's not happening anytime soon. And then just, yeah, at the other side, we just have this Hungarian horntail dragon, which will be removed, and we'll take a closer look at that in part 2. And I like how, unlike the minifigure scale sets, these cones for the tops of the tower, all of them in the set, we get 4 tower tops using these Millennium Falcon cockpit pieces. We do get them fully enclosed around the back as well, so you get 2 of those pieces for each tower, 8 in total in the set, and that just really helps with making the set feel more complete. Going into the interior, we again sort of have 2 floors. Down at the bottom, we have the gargoyle that guards the entrance to Dumbledore's office. Of course, at nanoscale, there's no real way they could have gotten it so that a staircase appears behind it. But honestly, I don't really mind. It's just cool to have that detail, since I think it might have been in the films, but it might have been, but I'm actually pretty sure that it might have been a book-only thing, which is really cool to see in the set. And for what it's worth, it looks really nice. I love the Mixel's teeth pieces in pearl gold for the wings. We can also see a couple lanterns on the sides, as well as a couple of stickers here for some brick detailing, which is something that we see a couple times in the set. And overall, I think it's a very interesting thing they did, but obviously since if they used the standard mason brick pieces here, it would have been the bricks would have been enormous, and there's no way they could have really done that. I think this was a good call. And, well, I honestly really like it, and I'm glad that they only did it in a couple places rather than all over the set, because having it here creates a bit of visual interest in what would have otherwise been basically a bland tan area, rectangle. But anyway, moving up to Dumbledore's main office, we have some really cool stuff in here, starting with the Dumbledore nano figure who is standing beside his desk, because again, chairs in the set are a hassle. And if I'm correct, that 1x1 clear stud on his desk is representing the pensieve. At the back you have some columns, as well as you can see in the back here with sort of this silver globe and this gating. We have sort of the whole backdrop of his office. Here we really just have the front part of it. But that looks really good, and I like how they did that. Up top you have a 2x4 tile stickered with some portraits of previous headmasters and headmistresses. And then on the sides, we have some more sticker detailing. This side, we get a bookshelf, a couple more portraits, and Fawkes the Phoenix, who obviously, there's no way you could have approximated Fawkes at a nano figure scale, so doing a sticker here was definitely the best choice and the right choice. Over here, we have a couple more paintings. The Sorting Hat, which again, same thing. You couldn't have approximated it at this scale, at least not to a size where it looked like it could fit on a nano figure, so this is the best option. The Sword of Gryffindor, I'm not so sure about. Maybe they should have used the standard LEGO minifigure dagger piece, or maybe even the much more recent Ninjago Season 9 Hunted dagger. But I feel as though, while those might have been better for getting a physical version, they would have scaled well with the figures. I think that for having the perfect shape, a sticker was, again, the best way to go about it. And that basically marks the end of this first half of the build, which is the Great Hall and the Hogwarts, the Grand Staircase Tower. So, without any more further ado, let's move on to the second half of the set, comprising the main corridor, the Stone Bridge and Stone Bridge Tower, the Viaduct, and the Viaduct entrance, which is also the library building. So let's get to that now, shall we? So here we have the second half of the set, which is really where things get interesting for me. Because, well, don't get me wrong, the Great Hall and Grand Staircase Tower are both fantastic, and they're both 109.75% way better than any other version of them that's come in the past. This stuff, both of these main buildings and the Viaduct, have never been tackled in LEGO Harry Potter before, and due to the fact that they're not overly prominent in the movies, it's likely that they won't be tackled at minifigure scale for a very long time, if ever. And interestingly, I was wondering for a while after the set was revealed what movie specifically it was based on, because as we all know, Hogwarts had a bunch of different layouts that changed from film to film, most noticeably from Chamber of Secrets to Prisoner of Azkaban, but there have been minor reshufflings basically every single movie the castle appears in. But it was interesting because I finally figured it out when I watched Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald on November whatever 2018. Because in that movie, we have multiple scenes that take place on the viaduct with the library building / viaduct entrance in the background. So while I can't be positive, I would hazard to guess that when they were designing this set, they probably wanted to get hands-on reference, so they went to the sets and used the models from Crimes of Grindelwald as reference, which is very interesting and very cool, and hey, means that movie did at least one good thing for the Harry Potter series. Am I right, lads? I'm not right, lads. But anyway, so this set is very cool, this half of the set, rather. Starting with the Viaduct, you can see that that is built up using a ton of these standard 1x2x2 window frame pieces, which were also used with those inserts for the courtyard. And down below we have a bunch of these 1x4 archway bricks, which are also really cool. Bit unfortunate how there is sort of an inset, like how this one's in the front layer, this one's back, this one's front, this one's back. That's a bit unfortunate, and I wish they could have found a way to do that all. Like, we just have a full row of them in the front and a full row in the back. But that wouldn't have been possible without creating even more, like, half-arch pieces like we got for the 1x3 arches. And I think this looks good enough without that. We again have many more designs for the cliffs and the trees. Not going to really go into any more detail there since I think we've seen those enough. Turning around to the side, we have some pins, and the bridge actually does jut out a bit over here because this is where because this is one of the places where the set locks into the other half. The other place being over here where you have a little wedge plate which goes into a little gap on the grand staircase tower. And you can sort of see at the side how, because this model, when it's on display, will always be connected up to the grand staircase tower, the side here for some interior space is actually left open, which I think is perfectly fine. For this section of castle here, it is pretty bland, actually, basically just a solid rectangle of building, but I think that that is perfectly fine for what they were going for, just a more standard section of Hogwarts that was mostly designed so that they could have a lot of great interior spaces inside, and it still looks good from the exterior. I do like the use of the mason bricks for sort of some enormous stone detailing. That looks good. And the roof up top is good, with the sort of little... This tower up top kind of reminds me of the towers of Gondor from Lord of the Rings, which is just kind of a random thing. The tower on the side uses more of those 1x1 plates in smoky clear for those windows, which are good. And up top, I like how we have sort of the sloping here. You can also see it over here with alternating between the anti-slopes and just the cheese slopes attached to headlight bricks. But then you say have slopes, and then up here, I also like how they did it with some of these windows and then just these gaps here. That looks good. Also, how they did it with these slopes up here, and then going up to the tippy top of the tower. It has another sand green cone at the top. Bunch of lightning rods in the set. Like, also, didn't mention before, but this set includes a good, about a dozen lightning rods. So those sand green ski poles, yeah, pretty great. But then next to the stone bridge tower, you of course have the stone bridge itself, which is very simple, definitely the simplest of all the structures in the model besides the boathouse. But it still looks nice with a couple of arches in there, as well as that plate in the middle being attached to a jumper, creating a couple of very small little gaps in there, which adds to the main library building. We have a really awesome design with some more of those new window prints used on the towers, and more stained glass, which is fantastic. You can see that at the top, we have two big spires in the front, and two more in the back using a different build that I really like, and makes a much thinner and taller tower. You can also see some more transparent pieces used in this center circular hole here. So it's just a couple of spires and a couple of these very recent triangular 1x1 pieces up at the top. Here you can also see some more doors with stickers on them. And at the side of the library building, we just have more of those windows, and three more on the side, along with a single stained glass window. But while the exterior of this part of the build looks very good, I think that for this half of the model, the highlight is definitely what's inside. So, let's take a look at that now. Starting off with a hidden room that can only be accessed when you split the set apart. It's the Devil's Snare room from Philosopher's Stone, and it's very simple. It's literally just three of the standard green vine pieces attached in this little gap created by the burp. But I mean, hey, if you have some empty space, might as well use it, and it's a cool little Easter egg, I feel. I like it. Moving around to the back of this section, though, we have a bunch of different rooms. Starting up at the top, we have Umbridge's office and the Defense Against the Dark Arts classroom. Sort of two different eras here combined. Order of the Phoenix and Prisoner of Azkaban. Anyway, Umbridge's office is very cutesy, with no stickers in there, which is not too common for this set. I think this might be the only room that doesn't require any stickers at all. So very cool there. You can sort of see how you have her little kitten plates, just using 1x1 studs. And I like this very nice pink light fixture up here. Very garish, and in general, I like how they used all these pink pieces, just very nice. Moving on to the DADA classroom, we have two stickers, one that sort of features some of the glass cases and cages with a couple of Cornish pixies from Chamber of Secrets, and another one with a good old-fashioned dragon skeleton hanging from the ceiling. You know, as you have. And you also have a couple of the more recent Scooby-Doo design for the magnifying glasses in here. For our main build, we have 3 tables, which is accurate, and then at the front we have the gramophone, as well as the wardrobe that the Bogart came out of. Cool stuff. Moving down to this corridor section, you can see that we have a couple more stickers, like we had in Dumbledore's office, just a couple more stickers for some more generic stonework detailing. We can also see the door to the Room of Requirement, which is interesting since the Room of Requirement is included in the set, but nowhere near this door. We'll get to it later. So that's an interesting thing. Really cool they included it, just definitely not location accurate in the slightest. Or, well, more accurately, I think this might be location accurate. It's more that where it's put, where the actual room is put in the set is not accurate. And then moving on to what is easily, for me, the coolest sticker in the whole set, the Chamber of Secrets has been opened. Enemies of the air, beware. There isn't a good way for me to get a really good angle at that, but you can see how that's done with the dark red text, written in blood, Rooster Blood. And thank God there isn't a sticker for Miss Norris hanging on the wall, because that would have been actually the worst thing ever. I don't care if she's actually, like, evil and a terrible cat. She was still a cat. So glad that Mrs. Norris wasn't permanently dead or anything. So glad that a bunch of contrived conveniences led to no one dying from the basilisk. Very lucky they all were. And then moving all the way down to this bottom layer, we have a couple more of the rooms from the tasks they went through in Philosopher's Stone. So you can see that starting off here on the right, we have the Chamber of Winged Keys, with what is probably my favorite part use in the entire set, where they use an unprinted paintbrush piece as a broomstick. That is just a super cute little design, and like, it just works perfectly. We can also see some clear 1x2 tiles stickered with some winged keys. These two have identical with 2 keys each, and this one up at the top has the key with the bent wing that opens the door. Near at the back, we have this panel piece, which has some sort of archway stickering, 6 more keys, and the door all the way in the back. Moving on to the other side of the model, we have the little chess room, where we can see our good pal Runil Waslib in there on the chessboard, which is not a whole board, obviously. It is just a cutout. We have 3x8 spaces on there, and I'm very glad that they decided to do this instead of trying to squish the whole board in there, whether by making the board smaller or by making the whole model deeper. I'm glad that they decided to just do a cutout, since this just works a lot better, and I mean, come on, for building it and trying to get it perfect, lining up 24 1x1 tiles perfectly is difficult enough, LEGO. I don't need any more pain. But you can see an assortment of pieces in there. Aside from Ron, we can see some nano figures, one in black, one in white, which are representing either the kings or queens. We have cone pieces representing some bishops. We have these cheese slope pieces, which I believe are our knights, and then these just studs, which are our pawns. You can also see, pretty hard to see, but in the back we do have a sticker for the backdrop of the scene, with just some columns in the back, some torches, and it looks very nice. And I really like how the torches we have here actually use gold for the color of the flame instead of like orange or something. It creates a very classy feel. And I didn't mention it before, but at the bottom of all of these Chamber of Secrets and just everything on the bottom of the model, obviously this isn't the Chamber of Secrets, this is the stuff guarding the Philosopher's Stone, we have these sort of plate attachments at the sides with some slopes to create some rocky detailing, and it looks pretty good. Then underneath the stone bridge we have a very quaint room, but probably one of my favorites. It is the final battle of Philosopher's Stone, where we have the Mirror of Erised. And moving our pal Harry out of the way, the mirror's pretty alright. It's just a 1x2 tile, which works perfectly, and I think it's probably a good thing that the mirror surface wasn't reflected, since mirrored surfaces on stickers are an absolute pain to do. And it probably would have been pretty hard to get off, since it would have literally just been a sticker sheet with one sticker on it. So I think it's a good idea they didn't do that. And in the background we just have 4 flames. No Quirrell figure in the set, unfortunately. But I think it works well enough just to have Harry in there. Cute boy Harry. And a similar scaling issue to the diary earlier in the set. Here you can see a 1x1 trans red stud representing the Philosopher's Stone, and that's a bit big. Now that's more like the Philosopher's Boulder. But anyway, moving on to the library building with our 2 bottom rooms. Starting on the left, here we have the Room of Requirement, taking the form of the Room of Hidden Things from Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince and Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. And there's just a ton of stuff in here. Starting at the back, you have 3 stickers that sort of have a bunch of columns in the background and shadows, sort of capturing the huge scope of the room, as well as stickers for just a bunch of random Lego elements. Some of them make sense, like the sword, the spider, the crown, the wizard hat, the key, the skeleton, and some of them don't, like an electric guitar, a loud hailer, a fish, a clown horn, baseball cap. But anyway, so you have a ton of those, and we just have tons of building in here for just tons of junk. Like we have these 2 glass things, which look really nice. We have the Goblet of Fire, which is probably a bit more accurate than the one that we're getting in the clock tower at minifig scale, which is kind of funny. We have this tower of like all this different stuff that Draco, Zabini, and Goyle climbed in the Room of Requirement in Deathly Hallows to escape the Fiend Fire. Unfortunately, Goyle did not make it out alive. Crabbe was in prison at the time, which is why he wasn't there to film the scene, because he was supposed to die. Good job. Pretty lucky for him, actually. He got to live. Anyway, and then we just have a gold goblet in the back, and here we have this triangular thing, which is the Vanishing Cabinet, which is another build that is very simple, but it works very well. And anyway, then moving up all the way up to the final 2 floors, well, final 1 floor, final 2 rooms, we have the floor of the library building. And starting off, if I am allowed to give off a tiny nitpick here, it's that here at the side we just have some arched pieces, sort of having open, huge windows to the 2 floors here. Again, simulated 2 floors. In all actuality, we just get 2 rooms on the same floor. but it's simulated there would be 2 floors here, judging by the towers and the coloration of the tan here. And not sure about that. Like, maybe I would have been fine if they'd done something there to give us some sort of glass detailing, but just having it be fully open is a bit off to me. But anyway, turning it around to the back for our final 2 rooms, you can see actually in the center we have some more doors, which again can open inward. These ones are definitely a bit bigger than the ones in the Great Hall, though. And on these 2 columns in the center, you can see that on the left, more towards the library, we just have this sort of chalkboard with some arithmancy stuff. And on the right, we have the sort of Gryffindor board where they pin everything up, like Weasley Wizard Wheezes and junk. Then up here, we have just a couple more stickers for brick detailing. On the left, we have the Gryffindor common room, or the left from the front of the building, the right from the back where we're looking right now. And in there, we have some pretty cool stuff. We have some seating around the fireplace, using some brick building for a couple of sofas, the standard chair design we've seen throughout the set, and even a little ottoman, as well as a table with a light. And here we have a fireplace with a couple of standard flame pieces in there. Then on this side, we have the portrait of the Fat Lady, which is the first time we're getting her in a set since 2001, so yippee. Then over here we have the library, with over here a table and just a ton of piles of books. We have some chairs. Here we have a main bookcase, which has a lot of great detailing in it for tons of different colors. We have some chairs pushed in and others angled around. Just tons of piles of books. Hermione loves it, that's why she's there. And yeah, just zooming out, you can see all the way up to the top of the set. And we have looked at everything for Hogwarts Castle as it is presented in this set. So, thank you all so much for watching this awesome video. It's not over yet, because I am going to bring in the Great Hall and give sort of my final opinions on the main castle structure itself. But I'm just so excited to be making this video. Like, seriously, I know I'm like nearly an hour in, but I'm so glad to finally be talking about this set after months of having it, and months of just not having the time or the space to do it, because I had to get like I had to completely redo my studio to be able to fit the set in. So, which is, if you haven't noticed, there's like a tiny seam running down the studio. That's why. It's because this is a new temporary studio just for this video. But anyway, so now I'm going to bring in the rest of the castle, and I'll give my mini final verdict on the main build of this fantastical set. Here I am back. I nearly forgot to film a segment with Snape's classroom. I just completely passed over it on my first go-through. But here we are, back again. And you can see that this is a really nice room. I'd say it's probably somewhere in the middle for how great it is. But it's really nice. I like the 3 stickers in the background. Specifically I really like the sort of gold stripe we have going across the top, as well as the shelves, which I'm glad we have the little stickered ones combined with the main brick-built ones. It creates a very nice look, in my opinion, and I'm very much glad that we get both, because just the brick-built ones would have been kind of goofy and huge compared to the figures, while just the stickered ones wouldn't have really had any point to them, because I don't like just details done entirely by stickers, which is why I'm glad that every room in the set, in at least some fashion, does have brick building to it. So none of the rooms here feel like super hollow or anything. Everything's well done. And anyway, for other stuff, you can see in the back we have a cauldron, which is the standard cauldron piece they're using for minifigures in the new line, but it's absolutely enormous compared to a nanofig. And also on the right, you have the standard Lego Potion vial piece in trans purple, which is none too common. Then we have a couple of work tables. On each one, we have one of these cauldrons, which is an upside-down stud with a hole in the center on top of a stamp piece, which is much more size accurate to what it should be for a nanofig. And then here we have a copy of Advanced Potion Making, which is just, again, pretty big, like Tom Riddle's diary. But it's the best they could do at this size, and I think it's pretty charming. But now we are done with Hogwarts Castle, so now we can move on to the final verdict for this main build. Not for the whole set, because again, I am going to have a part 2 where I look at all the other stuff, like nanofigs and minifigs and the side builds. But here we have this. And now on to the final verdict for this build. Hogwarts, Hogwarts. Hoggy-warty Hogwarts. Really, what else is there to say about this set? It's basically flawless. Now, I'm not going to say it's actually flawless, but as LEGO sets go, this is the closest I've ever seen a set come to being absolutely perfect. Every room in the set is really well done. Every exterior detail is perfect. There's just the perfect amount of detail for a set of this size. Everything is the perfect size. They chose phenomenal choices for the buildings to have a combination of familiarity and uniqueness. And yeah, I know a lot of people were at first thrown off a bit by the fact that everything is at nanoscale and not the standard minifig scale, and in all honesty, it did throw me for a loop at first as well, but now that I have the set, and I've built the set, and I've played with the set, it's wonderful. The set really doesn't lose any of that good dollhouse-style play you get with the standard sets. Because, in fact, you might even get more because due to their small size, the nano figures can actually fit in more places than the minifigures throughout the set. They can go basically anywhere where there's just a single stud, as opposed to minifigures, where, you know, you have, like, really, because of the arms, you almost have a 1x4 footprint for them. But yeah, so you just get so much great detail. Everything is just fantastic. And I don't really know where else to go from here. So, thank you all so much for watching this video. And, well, obviously this is a part 1, so I would hope to see you in the next one. Kind of pointless if you've watched this far only to give up now. And after that, I can only hope. But for now, this is Retro Brick Reviews, signing off. See you soon, everyone.